Welcome. Welcome, everybody. John Zager, johnzager.com. Hope everyone is doing fine, holding up good. Got some more information I want to pass on. Again, I just want to say that I just go out and find information that seems interesting for me and my life. And then I try to find two unrelated sources that can substantiate it. And then I have a choice to decide if I want to keep that or not. That's what I do here. That's what I'm doing here today and what I did yesterday with this pandemic that seems to be going on. So today the world has changed from yesterday. And every day it's going to change that much each time. Now they're saying we can gradually start opening up the economy in America. Yay. Got nothing against that. And it'll happen in this manner. Stage 1, 2, 3, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have a problem with that. And it's in control of the governors, and I like that. So, what'll happen? This is one thing I looked up and heard and researched, and it makes sense. There's a thing once we all get back out there, and we're going to still have to keep our spaces, I guess. But there's a thing called group immunity. And by us being back out, let me say it a different way. Whether we go back and start opening up the economy and people getting out partially and more and more and more based on the criteria that's going to be needed for people to get back out, people are going to die from the virus. Whether they go back out, we open up the economy or not. If we sit in here and rot for another 90 days, people are still going to die. And if we go back out, people are still going to die. And what it sounds like is that people are angry enough. I'm just reading what I read on the internet and listening to people. And it sounds like everybody's angry enough that they're willing to have some loss of life in order for them to get out of their houses and get their freedom back. What we've been living in for the past, I don't know, what's it been, 3, 4, 5 weeks, is socialism. What you're seeing right now is socialism. So whether you're Republican or Democrat, whoever you're for or against, doesn't matter. When the chips are on the table, it appears that the politicians can resort to socialism. That's them telling you what you're going to do. Right, wrong, or indifferent. So it's not particular to this candidate or that candidate or this person in office or not. So here's the deal. People have gotten pretty upset with sitting inside, and the realization has occurred to politicians as well as people that it's time to get back. We're going to lose lives whether we stay in our houses or not. The percentages, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have that information. It would appear there's a thing called group immunity. And what that is by people going out collectively in large numbers, again, starting over, you acquire immunity to different bacteria, viruses, sicknesses, illnesses, colds, flus. You build a group immunity by being around that on a regular basis. So there is a good side to going out there. Whether more lives are lost with us staying in our houses or going out and trying to acquire this group immunity, I don't know. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, but I thought that was a good point. And it goes on to just talk about some will die either way. And they're saying in this report that, and again, I guess Trump's addressed this, and everybody on that panel every day for quite some time, is that, it would be great to have testing for everybody to determine who has it and who doesn't, who's a carrier, who's not. I don't think we're going to get to that kind of numbers of testing. But I do believe that we're going to get closer to testing more and more and more people. And that's going to be a positive, because then people are going to feel more comfortable with going out and not sitting in their houses. So here's what I think. Start thinking about how we're going to deal with even more restrictions. Now, I know that seems contradictory, but here's the scenario on that. Just because we're being able to, based on a criteria for the governors to decide if we can go out or not, there's going to still be restrictions. I had heard, and I verified it, that some states are going to say you have to wear these masks irregardless, all the time now. Whereas now, I go out, I don't wear one, but now they're saying with the opening up of the economy, as you get to go out and all that kind of thing, they're going to keep a restriction or put a restriction on it to where you have to wear a mask all the time. So that's a new one. That's an add-on. I'm in Colorado, and I believe I heard my governor say that yesterday. Which, currently right now, today, we don't have. So we're going to have to jump through more hoops in order to be out. In other words, you get to go out if you're clean for, 14, 15 days one time, clean 14, 15 days a second time, and I think there even was a third. So are we, in fact, being able to go out right now, or is it going to end up being a longer length of time that we're at home? Now, some of the states, as they talked about yesterday, have already jumped through the first two hoops because they've basically had very little to no people with infection from coronavirus. And actually, they've had either no or just a handful of people that had died from that. So they're already past, I think, stage 1 and stage 2, but stage 3 has additional criteria that they have to jump through as well. So we're going to have to get a mentality that you understand that your life is not going to be the same as you understand it. Okay? Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I just do research, but here's what everybody's saying, is that this virus is probably going to be around for a long, long time. Right? Off and on, fall, winter, I don't know. It may come back around a second time, a third time. It's hard to say. But we're going to be having restrictions. Things are going to be different from here on out. We're probably not going to be sitting in a stadium with 100,000 people watching football. College football, pro football, pro sports, college sports. My guess is all of that's going to change. Fishing, something as simple as fishing, where I used to be able to just go whenever I want, wherever I wanted. That ain't going to happen, you guys. That ain't going to happen. I suppose if you go fish someplace down on the ocean you might get away with that. But in some of these rivers and lakes and whatnot in the Rocky Mountains, that's going to get limited. The National Park Service is going to have restrictions. Think of how many national parks there are where you could actually go and fish and hike and camp. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. So you have to get used to understanding you're going to have some socialism regardless of which party you're voting for. I just see that one coming. What's the other thing? I just saw this 10 minutes ago. Gates. Bill Gates. All right. So Bill Gates is the guy who's putting all the money into all the research to develop a vaccine. I'm just cutting to the chase. I'm not going into all the details. You guys can figure that out. If you already know it, you probably do anyway. He's saying that once the vaccine is developed, right, who stands to gain from the vaccine being developed? Bill Gates. Who stands to open a new pharmaceutical company in the world that has the vaccine? Bill Gates. Who stands to be the king? Bill Gates. He's saying, and he's demanding this morning, they had him on, and he's saying, you don't get to buy gas, you don't get to go to the grocery store, you don't get out of your house, you don't get to go down to the corner and take a walk with your dog. You don't get to do anything unless you have this card that verifies you were given the shot, the vaccine, you have it, and you have to show the card to get your gas. You have to show the card to get your groceries. You have to show the card when the police stop you and you're walking your dog. Okay? That's socialism, you guys. You've got to wrap this around your head somehow that the world has now changed. You know, going out for dinner, going out for drinks. You don't get those privileges unless you have the vaccine. I will not ever take the vaccine. If you go and research vaccines, you know, don't listen to me. I'm just telling you what's working for me based on what I've learned and the research that I've done. More people die from the vaccine than they do from the virus. Take the example of 1917 pandemic. Okay? I'm not going to have anybody telling me I need to be, what's the word, immunized with a drug that I know nothing about, and somebody else like Bill Gates developed it, designed it, marketed it, and who knows what's in there that may or may not control the way you think, the way you act, and the way you feel. So those are just a few examples that I mentioned of how things are going to change. I could probably sit here and go through 50 real quick, but I won't. So what we're running across is that people are mad, hostile, angry, now after a few weeks of being quarantined. And they're almost demanding, I mean, you listen to this stuff as much as I do, that they want out. So we're not liking socialism. And now think, a few weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, there was people all over the block that were on that bandwagon of let's go for socialism. Let's take from the rich and give to the poor. It's just another example of it. I predict, based on my working with people since 1968, I believe, full-time is my career, I believe that people are probably, if they've gotten mad after 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, I don't know. What do you think they're going to do after they find out they haven't passed the 3 criteria within the state for the state to open up and allow them to go out? People are probably going to get more angry. I'm drinking a Sprite. I don't know why, I just got a Sprite. So I'm thinking that people are probably going to be more angry. When I talk to people, just here and there and anywhere, most people won't talk to you anymore anyway because they're so scared. People are angry. And I suspect that when they find out there's rules and there's boundaries for them getting their freedom back, so to speak, they're going to get angry about that. They're going to want the old ways back. Which, I don't know. If you just kind of put it together, it's not going to happen. The old way of life is just not going to come back, you guys. It's not going to come back. Your world has now changed. And that's kind of what we're talking about here today. We need to get a grip on that and decide how we're going to address that issue and how we're going to address those feelings and emotions. Right? So, in a sense, we've been controlled for the past several weeks by the government, which I believe has been a good thing because they've gone and done research. They've done a very, very good job with working on the virus, tracking it down, finding out what kind of things they can do and can't do that are going to alleviate people from dying. So a lot of it's been very good, but by the same token, we've been controlled pretty much, and people have basically said there's a limit as to how far they'll be pushed. And the way the government works, if you go back in history with all the tyrants and whatnot, is that they control populations through fear. Making people believe things that are not necessarily true. And then look at everybody who went and got the toilet paper and the hand sanitizers. I mean, I go look for stuff now, and sometimes it's just completely gone. And I wonder, I don't understand. If I'm scared of what's going on, why do I need Kleenex? I don't know. But they know that. Clinical psychology, they study this stuff all the time. The governments study this stuff all the time. Excuse me, on how to control people, the population, of your country. And they and you both now know and have seen how it works. What else do I have here? I have a couple more points and then I'm going to be done. Here's my final comment, I guess, is that from a clinical standpoint, there's a lot of really good, positive things that have come out of this. And we found some brilliant people to come in and do the work. And we found ways for people and businesses to just say, I'm willing to help and I want to help. And that's been a godsend. And along that line, we've also run across and have now seen the people who are in the power position that are wanting to control and manipulate. How do I say it? Everybody knows the agenda that Soros has. Well, it's time that maybe you look at that agenda and go research it and find out what is he exactly up to. And what about some of these outspoken people in politics, and what are their agendas, to where they're basically saying, I don't really care about if more people lose their lives. I care about my political agenda. And there's just really, really clear examples, you guys, if you go on and research and, try to get two unrelated sources confirming the same thing that you're reading and wanting to know if it's true or not. The people who have stepped forward and said, I have a different agenda other than the betterment of the planet and the people on it, have now become very, very clear. And you, who's listening to this little podcast of mine, which is just my view, you guys. I mean, I am all in favor of whatever your thoughts and feelings and emotions are. If they're completely different than mine, that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. All I'm asking for is that maybe we ought to reassess what our world is going to look like in the next year. It's not going to be like summers past. It's just going to change. And how are we going to process the fact that the restrictions are going to be tighter even as we move out of our homes and try to get back to what we think is our past lives? How are we going to deal with those emotions, right? And my understanding would be that you have to feel like you're in control again. It's important for you to feel in control. You're going to be going to jobs, back to industries that you've worked in the past. I think they've done a good job with making sure that people can go back into the old jobs. But there's going to be restrictions on that, you guys. It's going to be different. And how do you feel having restrictions even when they told you and tell you that your freedoms are back? When in actuality, they're not. You think you've been hearing propaganda now. You're going to have more propaganda with them trying to convince you otherwise. Here's how I'm dealing with getting my control back. Here's how I'm dealing with it. I'm an American and I'm able to vote. And I vote for different people for different reasons, right? And I'm going to cherish that right even more now. I clearly encourage everyone to vote. Vote for whoever you feel is going to have your best interest and the interest of the country in mind. I personally don't want to go down the road of one world order with people like Gates, and I won't mention a lot of other names, but I don't want those people making decisions about my life. I believe Trump got in This is just my thought and based on what I researched, but I believe he got in because he was against big government. And my votes are going to be cast in favor of not having big government and us being able to make our own decisions, as we're more than capable of how we're going to live our lives and care about one another. So, it's a little 2 cents worth. I don't know. I guess I went on too far again today. My apologies for that, as always. But I kind of get carried away with some of the stuff I start talking about. I'm going to start coming on every now and again, maybe not every day, but most every day, and talk a little bit more about how we need to address our emotions and feelings as regarding the restrictions we've already had and what we're going to do with those emotions and feelings and actions based on the restrictions that we're going to get on us, even though they're telling us we're getting our freedom back. And again, the logical answer in the end is your ability to control yourself, and possibly politically in your voting or something, however that turns out to be, you might be able to alter the course of history as well. So I'm available. I want people to know that. I am perfectly available. You can get a hold of me in any way, shape, or form you want. And if you would like to visit or talk or whatever, that's what I've done my entire life with people. I'm happy to consult with you about this, that, and the other thing. I don't do therapy anymore. I'm not licensed any longer to do therapy. I've done that 43 years, and that was enough. But I am willing to coach and, kind of offer some guidance, suggestions, education, training around what's going on in your head. I'm easy to find. Just look me up however you want. So God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.